The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome into a new edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live football show on the Belly Up Sports Network. And this is the final July episode, which means this week, actually, we have a football game going on. So lots happening in the football world and lots to discuss in the fantasy world. I'm Vince Stover, host of the Sports Stove Football Show, joined as I am every week by two of the most unheralded guys in the business, but we are trying to herald them. I don't even know what that means. To one side is the senior writer for BellyUpSports.com, Kevin Wilson. How you doing, Kev?
I'm doing great, and I'm always pleased to be with you fine gentlemen, and looking forward to talking some football this evening.
Very good. To my other side is the co-host of the 3rd and 10 podcast, and, of course, writer at BellyUpSports.com as well, Brian Germinaro. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great. It's the last West Coast game for the Mets all season, so no more 10 o'clock starts. That's positive.
Oh, man. I am keeping my eye on a Brewers-Cubs game right now. I'll try to pay attention to you guys talking, though, along the way. And
we appreciate that.
I'm a little thrown. I just noticed Kevin's wearing a Steelers jersey. And I'm always intrigued by Kevin. And Brian, I want to talk about this with you, but we'll let Kevin first, because Kevin, I know he has multiple baseball jerseys that are not the team he cheers for. And now, granted, Houston is where you live, so that makes a little more sense. Or you have
Dallas.
I'm sorry, Rangers. Yeah, Rangers is what you have. But you have a Houston jersey too, don't you?
That would be a negative.
Okay.
Well, I got an Astros jersey.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
One of the few. What do they call that? The city. Whatever that.
Oh, the City Connect. Yeah.
The City Connect uniforms that actually are, somewhat good looking, unlike a lot of them, because it says the Space Camp on the front, which is really awesome. So.
All right. So tell me about what's the story behind the Steelers jersey?
Okay. So the story behind the Steelers jersey is because Russell Wilson, as we all know, played for the Steelers last year. And so my wife, knowing that I like Russell Wilson a lot, went out and for my birthday, it was for the birthday right there. Okay. And I just make sure I got it correct. And she went out and got me a Russell Wilson Steelers jersey because it has Wilson on the back, got his number and everything. And I thought, well, you know what? We're talking NFL, and I haven't worn this jersey because now, obviously, he's not even on the Steelers anymore.
Yeah.
And so there's some Steeler players, I believe, that are going to be brought up later in this program. Okay. So I thought, okay, I'll just throw on the jersey and, and make it work.
I like it. I like it a lot. Brian, I'm curious. I'm trying to think back. I'm a Packer fan, named after Lombardi, have a kid named after Favre. But I did wear a Titans jersey back in the day. I'm trying to remember, it was Samari Roll, cornerback.
Okay.
And I lived just south of Nashville and would go to games, just because we got tickets here and there. And I loved Keith Bullock. I never had his jersey. And I had an Eddie George, Tennessee Oilers jersey from Eddie George as well. But my mom's an Ohio State fan, so that made a little bit of sense, I guess. So anyways, I've had a couple other than Packers jerseys. Brian, what's your philosophy on wearing jerseys that are not your team?
I don't do it. Unless the only exception is if you're like a diehard college football fan, like Notre Dame, and, Riley Leonard becomes a starting quarterback for the Colts, and you're like, if you're a Chargers fan, then you can wear it because they don't really see each other that much. But most of the time, I stay away. I don't wear any team that's not a team I support.
Yeah, I've got a signed Jonathan Taylor jersey that I don't have hanging currently in the studio, but I'm probably at some point going to replace my award from Belly Up Sports with the Jonathan Taylor jersey. I'd like to get a few more Packer things on the wall before I hang a Jonathan Taylor jersey on the wall, though. So we'll see how that goes. I don't mind the Colts. I'm just not, a diehard Colts fan at the same time. All right, enough of that nonsense. Let's get to fantasy football. Let's get things started with the lead block. All right, today for our first segment, we want to look at is a little bit of a overreaction, I would say, but it is players who, for better or worse, we feel differently about them today because of, since Wednesday especially, we've been seeing all these videos and these clips and people talking about camp and everyone, how they're performing and how great they are and all these sorts of things. And I'm curious if we have allowed ourselves to be influenced. And now we're feeling a little bit better about someone. We're getting a little bit hyped about someone because of 2 days of camp, and they're ready to go now. Now we've changed our view on them. I do have someone, so I'm interested to see if you guys are the same. Kevin, I want to start with you. I have competed in fantasy sports with you now for a few years. Yeah. I know that you are not easily swayed by homerism when it comes to fantasy sports or anything like that. But has there been anyone that you've seen, heard, talked about, or read about that so far in camp, what they've done has made you think, boy, maybe they should be a little higher on my rankings, or maybe even someone who'd say should be a little lower on my rankings?
Okay, so as you all know, even though the jersey would say otherwise, I'm a Seahawk guy first and foremost. And everything that I'm hearing coming out of the Seahawks camp, and as we talked about Elijah Arroyo earlier, but everything that I'm hearing saying that this guy is absolutely tearing it up in camp. He comes in there, he knows the playbook, he's catching darts, he's doing everything that he needs to do to make himself, because he's not a great blocker. We know this, and he's trying to improve. If he can improve that part of his game. And Brian, I thought you mentioned a while back that Arroyo would be shooting up draft boards. I am absolutely convinced that he needs because I don't have him on my current tight end board, and he needs to be on there. And so I am absolutely, completely in now on Elijah Arroyo, and also his teammate Jalen Milroe. If you are one of those guys that their league hasn't done their rookie draft, which is hard to contemplate because most of them wanted to do it 5 minutes after the draft ended. But if you're one of those guys that are in the league like that, then you need to have Jalen Milroe on your board. Draft him. He's going to be the Seahawks starting quarterback at some point. Not saying this year. You draft him, put him on your taxi squad, and just wait for this guy to take this opportunity, because everything, like I said, about the tight end is also true about Milroe. So I am absolutely convinced that he's going to be one of those guys that you want to have on your team, and wait for him because it's going to be worth it.
All right. Very good. All right, Brian, the reason I thought of this segment was because of the Giants, honestly.
Yes.
And so I'm curious. It doesn't have to be a Giant player, I suppose, but I'm curious. Is there someone that you've heard, seen, read that you said, man, I'm a little hyped for this guy that I wasn't necessarily as hyped before?
I mean, if we're going to go Giants front, it's Cam Scottaboo. He's having a great camp so far. The rumors are he might already be RB1, which would be crazy considering the season Tyrone Tracy had last year. But I was always pretty big on Scottaboo. I said he's going to be a touchdown machine this year. A guy that I originally called a dud when we were covering Dynasty and been really impressive at camp is Kyle Williams of New England Patriots. I mean, we've been seeing highlights of him making some pretty impressive one-handed catches. He's been going up against Christian Gonzalez, who would you all agree is a pretty good young cornerback, and has been kind of cooking him in these spots. That wide receiver 2 spot in New England is kind of open. Like, we expect a guy maybe like a Demario Douglas, but I wouldn't be surprised if Williams continues to have a big preseason and builds his chemistry with May that, hey, maybe he's that wide receiver 2 and is a big sleeper late in drafts.
I like it. I like it very much. And I'll stick with the pass catchers because for me, it's Matthew Golden. I know he's a first-round pick, but again, we got these loaded offensive talents in Green Bay. How are they going to fit him in? What he's done in the very short amount of time right now, him and Love are connecting very nicely. He went up and made quite the play against Nate Hobbs yesterday, I think it was, as well. He's showing everything that he can do, catching the football, running with the football, all that kind of stuff. It's gotten me extra excited about Matthew Golden this year. I still think Jaden Reed is the guy that you want in Green Bay at this moment. But I think Matthew Golden has potential to easily be wide receiver 2 in Green Bay this year. And, people who don't follow the Packers may not care or may not realize there are guys there like Romeo Doubs who's had good moments, and Christian Watson if he's healthy, and those kinds of things. But if Golden can secure that wide receiver 2 spot, I go back. He's a different style, but I go back to the Randall Cobb days and being able to use him in unique ways, get him the ball early, let him make plays, that kind of stuff. It just seems to make sense. And so far, so good. And, I'm pretty stoked about what I've seen out of him so far, too. And I've had him – I'm always a little lower in recent years on Packers wideouts just because you never know who's going to have the game. But I'm liking very much so what I'm seeing in Matthew Golden so far. And the fact that him and Love are connecting so quickly is pretty awesome, too. So that's where I go with this one. Any other players you guys want to discuss?
Well, seeing as how I am wearing Russell Wilson's jersey right here, because I've seen the deep ball has shown up in the New York Giants camp. And he threw an absolute bomb to Darius Slayton. And we all know about Neighbors. We're both big on him. But if he's got that kind of thing working, then maybe we need to add on some traditionally, the Giants wide receivers are not guys that you'd want anywhere close to your fantasy team. But if Russell Wilson's going to be throwing like this, then you need to add some guys to your list that are on the Giants, because I think there's going to be some wide receivers that are catching some balls out there, not just Neighbors. I'm absolutely convinced that he's going to have a monster season. We've talked about that already, but Darius Slayton is looking good as well. So I would put him on a list of guys to look later in your draft as well.
I like it. I did see a tweet earlier tonight, actually 54 minutes ago, Brian, from a guy at Brian PG1016. He says, I'm still convinced Riley Leonard will start a game for the Colts this season. I know this isn't exactly what we're talking about, but I figured I was going to bring it up next segment, but I figured this will fit into this segment too. Yeah. So I still think it's Daniel Jones in Indianapolis this year, ultimately, that wins the job. I could understand that he fails and they give Anthony Richardson one more shot. He fails and they give Riley Leonard a shot. I want to know, do you think Riley Leonard wins the opportunity to play, or do you think Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson lose the opportunity to play?
I think it's Richardson and Jones losing the opportunity to play. I think we've all seen the video of Anthony Richardson in camp so far. You know, he missed that receiver that was 5 feet in front of him. So Richardson looks more and more like a bust every single week. It could go down as one of the worst draft picks of all time at this point. He's that bad. And Daniel Jones doesn't give you much. You know, he's at best a game manager. And let's not forget, Daniel Jones has injury problems throughout his career. He's had neck injuries. He tore his ACL. He's had, multiple concussions. Like, this is a guy that you really can't count on for 17 games. So it might be more of the Colts just in a bind and they throw Riley Leonard out there like they threw Sam Ellinger out there a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a perfect illustration of it for sure. I don't know, Kevin, any thoughts on Riley Leonard, rookie quarterback, Notre Dame? He's got some skill, obviously. He's got some mobility, all that good stuff too. And I mean, there's a very good chance at some point in the season the Colts will go, why not? Right? Yeah. Kevin, thoughts on Riley Leonard?
Well, until very recently, that's a guy that was nowhere on my radar whatsoever.
Yeah.
But you got good points about both of those guys for differing reasons that they aren't going to get the job done for whatever reason, because they're just sorry to begin with, or injury, or whatever it is. So I think that there is an absolute chance. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to jump up and draft this guy.
No,
early in it. No. And because if the other two guys work out in any way, shape, or form, then his long-term prospects at the quarterback position aren't that good. So, but that's a big, if right there. So keep him on your radar. And we'll see. If none of those guys work out, then that team is going to. They're probably not going to be good anyway. But we're talking just traditionally, absolutely bad.
Yeah.
If neither of those guys works out at the quarterback position.
Yeah, Leonard was my 9th rated quarterback going into the draft this year. I had him behind Quinn Ewers, and even though he had a better, not necessarily better college career, but there were things about him that were better in college than Quinn Ewers, for sure. I had him behind Kyle McCord and Tyler Shuck and all those guys. So that being said, a value where they, I mean, it's not like they spent a lot of money on him to get them. So why not give him a shot if the season goes down in flames? And if the season goes down in flames, you kind of want it to, right? You want to be there in the top couple picks probably. And so I don't know. You got to be careful. Sometimes you'll let Anthony Richardson play it out just so you can get that first overall pick. Once you get it locked in, then maybe Riley Leonard comes in as well. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on this. Like I said, we got a preseason game coming up this week. We've got all preseason games coming up very soon. Camp, everyone's coming in. We got little injuries here and there, things going on, signings still taking place, we'll talk about in a moment. And so, yeah, we'll keep up on this throughout the preseason, getting us ready for the season as well. And we'll talk more about players that are standing out, I guess, in these preseason games and these camps and practices and things like that too. All right, that's the lead block. Let's go into the cover 2. I want to start the cover 2 today talking about the Cincinnati Bengals because Shamar Stewart finally signs. He gets basically what he wanted. There was a little bit of compromise on his end, but for the most part, it's what he wanted. So he signs. Trey Hendrickson's reporting to Cincinnati now, with ideally what has been reported is that it's in good faith that they will jumpstart the conversations around his contract. So we talk about the Bengals offense all the time because, well, we should. Joe Burrow's an elite quarterback, and they got 2 receivers that are really, really good. They've got a running back that we've debated a little bit, and Chase Brown as well. So on the defensive side, we've all said they've got to have something that works, and having Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson would surely help that situation. So let's go with this question, I guess, other than just dropping it on you like that. Shamar Stewart, now what, Brian?
I mean, now we just kind of focus on getting Henderson signed, locked down, and hoping that Al Golden can come up with some sort of game plan with these guys where the defense is serviceable. I'm not saying it has to be elite, just make it average, and this offense will win you football games.
Kevin, how many points do the Bengals need to hold teams to in order to win games?
Well, they need to hold teams below 30.
Okay.
That's not asking a whole lot.
It's not asking.
That's not asking a whole lot at all. And because last year they consistently didn't do that.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen about Stewart is they're saying that he's going to be ready to play the Bengals' first preseason game. So they're confident about that. And if he can get on the field and show something that's his first round pick worthy, then okay, we're moving in the right direction. And I don't understand how you shut down talks with Hendrickson to begin with, but let's get those things ramped back up, get him in camp, and as a guy that's just standing off to the side, seeing 38 to 35 games is cool, right? Okay, and so, but come on, you got to play some defense because defense, as we all know, is what delivers in the postseason, and even gets you the postseason. So play a little defense, and this is a cat-loving establishment here, so we're behind the Bengals and we want them to succeed. So let's get this guy in camp so they can at least look salvageable on defense.
Every time you think the Bengals are screwing things up, Jerry Jones opens his mouth in Dallas. He said this week that, they want to pay Micah Parsons. He says, but Micah Parsons has to want to get paid. And I thought to myself, I don't know everything, but I'm pretty sure Micah Parsons wants to get paid. So what if we make I don't want to spend too much time on Jerry Jones because we all know the guy's nuts. But Brian, when you hear stuff like that coming from Jerry Jones about, I think unquestionably the best defensive player in the league right now. And if he is questionable, then he's a top 3 defensive player in the league right now. When you hear him say something, I think, idiotic like that, I mean, what are you thinking about this?
Well, as a Giants fan, it's Christmas in July is what every time Jerry Jones opens his mouth, because it just shows that that's a captainless ship running in Dallas right now. Yeah. But no, it's almost disrespectful to Micah Parsons because, like we said, he's a top 3 defensive player. I think all 3 of us would kill to have Micah Parsons on our defense right now.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So you do what more does he have to do to show you that he's worth giving a long-term contract to? Does he need to, break the sack record and have a sack in every single game? Because that's what it feels like at this point. So one thing he hasn't done yet.
Could you imagine Parsons leaving Dallas and let's say signing with Washington? Like, we haven't had something like that happen since, I don't know, maybe the Giants let Saquon Barkley walk out the door and go to Philadelphia. So,
all right.
Sorry, Brian.
I don't think that Jerry Jones has lost his way that much. Yeah. He's going to get it done. But the other thing that I thought was interesting, he was talking about, well, how come you haven't paid him? Well, he's not CeeDee Lamb. And I don't understand why that has anything to do whatever with the current situation. And so
does that make Dick Ferguson CeeDee Lamb?
I guess.
Because they signed him.
They did. And I just don't, because I live here, so I get all this stuff and, hear about it every day. I wake up in the morning. I just put on the news because I want to hear the weather.
Yeah.
Okay. But right after the weather, here's what Jerry Jones had to say. And so I just shake my head at it. Something. He's not CeeDee Lamb. Well, so, at some point, Stephen Jones
he could probably take over. He could probably play wide receiver and not.
He probably could.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's crazy. I want to go back to the Bengals because Noah Fant visited Cincinnati.
I saw that.
Everything said that it was a good visit. He did not sign. He's headed to New Orleans, I believe, is where he's headed next. If I'm Noah Fant and the Bengals want to sign me versus New Orleans, now I guess it depends on what the money is to a degree, but I don't know why you'd go to New Orleans over Cincinnati because Gesicki is fine, but not great. And he's always had some drop issues anyhow.
Yeah, I wouldn't even use the word fine. I'd just okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I consider that to be the same thing, but
okay, fine is a little above okay. In the Kevin, dictionary, fine is a little bit right here. Okay is about right here.
Okay, all right, that's my bad.
All right, no worries.
If we were talking about back when we were younger, talking about girls, then yeah, fine and okay are very different. But
yes.
But in fantasy football,
yes,
they're about the same. Nonetheless, before I get myself in trouble,
we need to get back on track.
We talked about Miami possibly for Noah Fant.
He did visit there. I saw that.
Okay.
And I thought that Miami wouldn't let him get out of there without signing the deal, but that's not what happened.
Yeah, I like the Cincinnati fit. What about you guys?
I love it. I would put him. Maybe he would shoot up draft boards for me. I think he could be like a borderline stable tight end one because he'd be Joe Burrow and an offense is going to be throwing the ball more.
And as far as the money's concerned, because he's still got the money coming from the Seahawks, so there's got to be something that they can work out there and avoid, the roadkill. It's going to be New Orleans. Yeah. There's got to be a deal that's got to be made. That's anybody would rather play anywhere but New Orleans.
Other news came out today or yesterday. I don't remember when it was, but it's a topic that I've discussed on my show on Thursdays with my dad. Trey Lance is going to get the start in the Hall of Fame game, which is, backup quarterback, normal, not a big deal. Except for my argument has been, have we ever given Trey Lance an actual chance? Like, have we ever actually let him get on the field, and show that he has it or he doesn't have it, because he was traded up for, he was a top 3 pick and never got the true opportunity in San Francisco. Last year in Dallas, when Dak went down, I was like, why is Trey Lance not on the field? Why are you not seeing? What was it? Cooper Rush, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Know what he is. You've already seen him fill in before. Why not put Trey Lance on the field and just see what he is? Like, why not give him the chance? There are practice players and game players. You never know. Like, give him a legit shot, and he really hasn't gotten it. Now he's out in LA with the Chargers. He's going to get plenty of preseason snaps as the backup there in LA, and he gets the opportunity to start Hall of Fame game. I don't take much out of preseason games at all, really, outside of like guys that are fighting for the final spots on the 53-man roster. But I think it's good for Trey Lance to have this opportunity. And I have no reason to like Trey Lance or dislike Trey Lance. But I'm sitting here going, finally, this guy maybe gets a shot to show that he can or cannot play one way or the other. So what's the expectation that we have for Trey Lance? Because we've kind of forgotten about him. I can't say that I remembered he was on the Chargers. I knew he signed somewhere this offseason. I couldn't remember where it was. He's on the Chargers. So I don't know, Kevin, what can this do for Trey Lance, and what should we expect from him?
I wouldn't expect a whole lot, because that same question was being asked around here last year. And no one would say anything, but I think that they saw Trey Lance, in practice, and they just knew this dude don't have it. And if the Cowboys thought that, then not that they're the absolute, arbiters of talent or anything, but if they didn't think he had it,
had some success with quarterbacks.
They have, and from places you probably wouldn't expect it. I mean, Dak was a 4th-round pick, and stuff like that, but they didn't let him get anywhere close to the field in the actual game. And so that just told me that guy just simply can't play. And, he's going to demonstrate that, I think. Give him a shot. Okay, no problem, because, you get, blasted 55-6 in an exhibition game. No hurt feelings or whatever.
Yeah.
But that he couldn't get on the field at all at Dallas, that's a black mark in my book.
Brian, are you a football romantic? Do you have this feeling like, man, maybe this is Trey Lance's chance, or have you kind of signed off on Trey Lance?
I've kind of signed off on Trey Lance because he's so young and he's been in opportunities like in Dallas to start that he just hasn't. Why? Just one injury cannot derail a player's career like Lance was, all right? And you kind of look back at the numbers. They've never been great. Like, he had 156 yards in at first start against the Bears, had 250 in a game that meant nothing last year. I think this is a guy that just doesn't look great in the practice field, doesn't go that extra mile in the locker room. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not there every single day, but just you would think that if he put in all this work and all this extra effort, that the coaching staff would at some point reward him with a start, especially with Dallas with Cooper Rush starting.
Especially late in the year when they had nothing whatever to play for.
Exactly. Just so the fact that didn't happen led me to believe that, okay, there's something that was missed in scouting that is now on, because let's not forget, Trey Lance did come out during the COVID year when there was a lot of, a lot of hard time scouting and stuff, and that affected a lot. We're still seeing the ramifications of it to this day. This just could be another one of those stories of, had there been a normal draft process and a normal college football season, Lance would have gone 3rd overall and probably would have fallen.
Yeah, because I go back to Mike McCarthy again. If you look at his quarterback history, in Green Bay, they would draft guys. They had success with them. I mean, Matt Flynn, there was success there, stuff like that. And I mean, I know you had your starting quarterbacks and Favre and Rodgers, I guess. Yeah, Rodgers during his time. But you had backups that came in and had some success and got on somewhere else, those kinds of things as well. So, I was surprised last year with Dallas because I really was confused why you wouldn't give them a legit shot. Now, the offense under Jim Harbaugh, it's a safe offense for quarterbacks. And, maybe it's a good fit for him. Every non-elite quarterback needs the right system. And if you get them in the right system, they can succeed. Is this the system? I don't know. Does he ever get the chance? I don't know. Hopefully they've changed doctors out there for the Chargers so they can keep their QB1 up and running. But, yeah, I'm intrigued. I don't know. For whatever reason, the Trey Lance storyline gets to me. I'm confused by it a little bit and intrigued by it to see what happens with him. All right, guys, any other NFL news you want to discuss before we head on?
Well, it's good news for Justin Fields.
Yeah.
With the toe.
Yeah.
Because if anybody saw Ryan, for that, no credentials required, it was like, life was over as we know it. And but he's already back on the practice field, so that is certainly great news for them. Let's see. We're talking about the Cowboys. They have 2 offensive linemen that are hurt. One has a broken neck. How in the world does that happen? So that's, we could have talked about this earlier because I'm not big on the Cowboys running game to start with, but if they're having problems getting people on their offensive line, this is bad news. Let's see. Cortland Sutton signs his deal. So that's great news for him. McLaurin's in camp, at least. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, there's a few hold-ins currently going on. A few guys that showed up that haven't figured out their contract stuff yet, but they're there. It was Hendrickson. I mean, he was getting fined $50,000 a day, so he finds his way back to the facility. So, and I like that the coaches and GMs are being patient with these guys. Like, come into the building, be here for the meetings. We'll let you figure out the business side of things, but let's at least have you here. I think that's positive for a lot of people for sure. Okay. Very good. All right, let's get into some tight end talk. Let's head over to the read option. All right, tight ends are an interesting position. We've talked a little bit about them throughout this preseason shows that we've been doing. And the rankings are up on bellyupsports.com as well. And we want to give you some options here to choose from. Try to pick guys that were similarly ranked. And we're going kind of veteran heavy on these today as well. Because we talked about, if you missed, back when we talked Dynasty, we did cover some of the rookie tight ends in those conversations as well. And I still think they're going to be really good as a whole. I think rookie tight ends are going to be very good this year. But let's get things started with the veterans that were at one point tight end 1. And I don't think any of us have them there at this moment, but they're still top level or second tier, whatever it may be, tight ends. So we're going to start off with Travis Kelce and George Kittle. And we are strictly talking about fantasy football, not off the field things.
Right.
And none of that. Don't break into song, Kevin. I know.
Okay. I'll try and keep it under control.
Travis Kelce, of course, has an elite quarterback still in Patrick Mahomes. And George Kittle is in an offense that has worked for him for sure. And he's still very good. We've talked about Brock Purdy and the 49ers already this year. So let's talk about Kelce or Kittle. Kevin, we'll let you kick us off with this one because, well, we got 2 Ks, so why not a Kevin as well? Kelce or Kittle?
Okay, so you're looking at this, and George Kittle kind of has this reputation of being more of an elite player than he's actually produced, because last year he caught 78 passes. That's the most he's caught in 3 years. And you look over here at Travis Kelce, even though he's 35 years old, 97, 93, 110 catches is what he's done over the last 3 years. And Kelce's going to step off the cliff really soon, but I don't think it's going to be this year. And Mahomes, he still likes his Travis Kelce. He's still trying to find what wide receiver to throw to. And so at the present moment, and I like Kittle, I don't want to dismiss him because he's a quality player. But in fantasy, if I had to take one of these guys, it would be Travis Kelce for this year.
Okay. Brian, you agree, disagree? Kelce or
So,
Kittle?
I have to disagree. I'm going to go with Kittle. And the reason why is we've seen Kelce's decline for 2 years now. I don't really think we talked about it in 2023 because all the storyline was about what Kelce was doing off the field with dating Taylor Swift and the Super Bowl run. But his numbers dropped significantly. Now, I'm not expecting him to get, 1,300 yards, but his touchdown numbers went from 12 to 5 from 2022 to 2023 and then dropped again to 3. Whereas Kittle has kind of been, consistent like 6 and 8 the past 2 years, and it had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I'd much rather the upside a Kittle gives me than to go on a player that's clearly on a decline in Travis Kelce.
Interesting. So as the tiebreaker, I'm going to go with Kittle as well. And my reasoning is this. Mahomes being as great as he is, and he does trust Kelce still, to me, Purdy is going to be more dependent on Kittle than Mahomes is going to be dependent on Kelce. Ayuk's still injured. We don't know what he's going to look like when he does get on the field, all that kind of stuff. Ricky Pearsall, just not a believer that that's going to be elite either. And so when I come down to it, I go, okay, Kittle is the guy that Purdy's going to have to lean on. And I do think that there are not necessarily better options, but more options for Mahomes with his skill set, as well as with some of the talent that's there at Kansas City too. So the decline of Kansas City as a whole, and decline, I use that word as lightly as I can with Kansas City. I don't know that it feels like the whole team is about to fall off a cliff. Like I feel like Andy Reid after the last Super Bowl win should have retired just because he could have retired on top. Not to say that he's bad or anything. I love Andy Reid. But it just seems like there's so much off the field stuff with these guys that even though they win games, they don't win them pretty. They're not blowing teams out. Kevin's talked about that with Mahomes' fantasy drop off, that kind of thing too. So for those reasons, I'm going to go Kittle as well. I think if you put them side by side if you put them in a reality show where they're just alone and all they can do is play football, I would probably take Kelce over Kittle. But put them in their situations, both on the field, off the field. You can see Kittle. You've seen this with Aaron Rodgers too. This is kind of weird way to tie it together, I guess. But when the off the field, the post-football life begins to come into the windshield, where you can see it now. This is what I'm going to do when football is done. Some guys tend to lose a little bit of that intensity on the field as well. And so I think Kelce has seen, hey, I may be starting a family. I may be, I know what I'm going to do when I retire. And now that he's got that in sight, I think it's affecting his outcome on the field as well. So those reasons, I'm going with Kittle. Those are not, firm, fast stats or anything like that, but that's my thoughts on it. All right, let's go to a couple other guys that have been around a little while now. Evan Ingram and David Njoku. And I'm intrigued on this one, guys, because Ingram has been a guy I used to love in fantasy football. Like he was a guy I would kind of try to get. I didn't go for the elite tight end. I tried to get Evan Ingram back in the day. And David Njoku is a guy that I've actually avoided over the years, even though his stats have been very good. And now Ingram's a guy that I'm going, do I trust them? Do I not? So I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on these guys. So Brian, we'll let you start this one. Evan Ingram or David Njoku?
Well, I never thought I'd say this after how I felt about Evan Ingram when he was a Giant, but I'm going with Evan Ingram because, look, for years, Evan Ingram was kind of Kyle Pitts before Kyle Pitts came in the league because every single year we're like, this is Evan Ingram's breakout, and then it just never came with the Giants. Granted, it did come eventually. It just came. He was in Jacksonville, but I digress. Listen, for me, it comes down to that offense and that quarterback situation. Evan Ingram's going to have Bo Nix throwing to him. We saw what Bo Nix did last year. We are figuring he's going to maybe a little step back, but not a crazy one. He still should be a really good quarterback. Should put the Broncos a really good spot for him to win. And we saw what tight ends can do in Sean Payton's offense. We saw Jimmy Graham for years dominate New Orleans. Who's to say Ingram can't have a similar impact to that? And do you really trust whatever quarterback Cleveland throws out there to throw to David Njoku and have consistent numbers week in, week out? I just can't do that.
All right, Kevin, Evan Ingram or David Njoku?
Okay, so I don't think there's probably a player that has made more out of less than David Njoku. Let's just say that because he hasn't had a quarterback, and we still don't know what's going on with the Cleveland quarterback situation. but he's going to produce. It doesn't matter who's back there. But we come back to who has the better offense, and that's Denver. And Ingram only played in 9 games last year. So I'm going to just go ahead and wipe that out because 2 years before that, he played in 17 games in both years. And just 1 year ago, 114 catches. Imagine that, a tight end, 114 catches. And I like, whoa, I liked the coach. I like the offense. And he's going to come in there and we've talked about how Bo could have a second year kind of step back, but he's a young quarterback, likes his tight ends.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to make that work, and he's going to be right back up there at the elite position. And it's a guy that you could probably get a little later than some of them other ones, we could, that are first, second, and third. So this is a guy you can wait a little bit and get massive value out of. So I like Njoku. I like him a lot, but I like Ingram a lot better.
Fair enough. I would side with you guys as well. My main reasoning is actually Harold Fannin Jr., the rookie in Cleveland. Like, Njoku has been good, not elite, not great, good. At some point, Cleveland's going to turn the page. They already did it at running back. They're about to do it at quarterback, one way or another. I mean, Joe Flacco is not the future in Cleveland, right? So they're going to start turning that page. How soon will it happen? If Flacco's the quarterback, I'd like Njoku still for the first part of the season in Cleveland. And if Pickett's the quarterback, or if one of the rookies gets the job, the tight end, again, just like we talked about with Bo Nix, the tight end's going to be used. But I think you have to watch out for Harold Fannin coming in and stealing catches from Njoku anyhow. So I will lean with Ingram as well in this one. We will revisit the Browns quarterback throughout this preseason because it's always something to talk about, needless to say. All right, let's go one more. Again, guys, these guys were maybe not tight end one, but they were up there. They were good in their younger years, and they're still good now. The question is who do we put above the other? And that is New England tight end Hunter Henry or Washington tight end Zach Ertz. Kevin, we'll let you lead the way with this one. Henry or Ertz?
Okay, so when it comes to the better offense, that's Washington. That's of course. And but when you look at Zach Ertz, had 7 touchdowns. Well, he had 5 TDs combined before that. And so I don't see that touchdown maintaining. And he's 34 years old. We could talk about guys that are getting ready to go off the cliff. He's on that list. Hunter Henry is 4 years younger. I like better this year coming in the New England offense. And he matched him with 66 touchdowns, but only had 66 catches, but only 2 TDs. I see that raising up. And, we all like Drake May. Little bit better come into this year, I would suspect. And so I'm going to go with Hunter Henry right here as my pick because he's going to get a better offense and everything, and I like what he's going to produce, whereas I think that Ertz, although I like him as well, he's going to come down some. So I'm going to go with Henry here.
Okay. Brian, I know asking you to talk about a Washington guy positively is hard to do. And before that, he was an Eagles guy, so that probably makes it doubly hard. But give me your reasoning in Henry or Ertz.
So I'm going with Henry. Henry for years has been one of my favorite players to get in fantasy. I remember a couple years ago, he was just a red zone monster, constantly catching those big games. So he's a perfect guy to sub in on that, waiver wire, those bye weeks. He's the perfect guy to just throw in there, and you're going to get 6 or 8 points. You call it a day. I think like Kevin said, the offense is better in New England this year from last year. We saw what Henry did with Josh McDaniels in that system. He had some of his best seasons. And like we said, Ertz is going to be 35. That regression is going to hit at some point. If our time catches up with everybody, we thought already did for Zach Ertz until the outlier that was last season. So are we really expecting that to repeat? I'm going to go with Henry with his track record right now.
Yeah, I think I would probably lean Henry as well. Ertz, you love the situation. He obviously, him and Jaden Daniels got along very well even though he's way older than Jaden Daniels and all that kind of stuff too. I think there's more weapons in Washington, which hurts Ertz a little bit. If he can be a red zone target, then there's where your fantasy value lies. But Hunter Henry, Drake May, Stephon Diggs, Kyle Williams, like there should be enough to go around in New England this year. May's more comfortable. He's going to be more comfortable with the guys that he's already built a relationship with. Henry's one of those guys. So I like Henry slightly better than Ertz here. I think this one's closer to me than even the one we just talked about previously. So I'm intrigued to see how this one goes throughout the year. I'm going to keep an eye on these older tight ends that have had some success, but because we got some young guys that are going to steal the show at the end of the day. And let's talk about this real quick. Isaiah Likely, he goes down in practice, and I've not seen what it was yet. I haven't seen how serious it was, but it was a lower leg injury, all that kind of stuff. So when you're looking at that kind of stuff, this is why you don't draft until as close to the season as possible. And you wait and find these things out, because if you could draft an Isaiah Likely and a Hunter Henry, an Isaiah Likely and even a Zach Ertz, those kinds of things, those are good pairings to put in place at tight end. And I think what you said perfectly fits, Brian, with that idea of Hunter Henry, especially has been that guy that you can bye weeks. Oh my goodness, you got to have a tight end. Who am I going to play? Find the guy that can put up, has the potential of putting up a touchdown is what I'm usually looking for there. And I think that's a good explanation for sure.
So just to throw this in here, because I got the story right here. It says that expected to be out a few weeks, in quotes.
That's good
after
news.
Suffering ankle injury.
Okay, yeah, that's good news. That's good news.
So, take that for what it's worth.
And I probably should have thought about this before, but again, I see Kevin's jersey and it reminds me. Jonnu Smith gets traded to Pittsburgh. Smith or Freiermuth? I'm intrigued to know. I mean, I don't know. I'm intrigued by this one. Do you guys have a feeling yet? I need to see some figure some things out.
Well, I said we were going to talk about some Steelers, which I didn't do in the previous sec. And DK Metcalf has looked awful in camp for them. And Aaron Rodgers threw an interception on his first pass as a Steeler. So I'm not having a whole lot of confidence in the Steelers in general at this moment. So I liked Freiermuth. He was on my bus.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm still saying his name correct or not, but I don't know, because I like Smith as well, and I like what their coach is a tight end guy. Yeah. But I'm gonna need to see something more positive coming out of the Steelers camp before I'm ready to get either of them on my bus at present.
Yeah, Brian, are you comfortable with drafting either Jonnu Smith or Pat Freiermuth?
I'm not really comfortable with drafting anyone from the Steelers offense because I just don't know what Arthur Smith's going to do. That being said, like, if I had to pick one, I probably lean Smith because he's the guy that has experience Arthur Smith offense. He knows what to do. And just from that experience, he's going to be relied on more heavily than someone like Freiermuth, who doesn't have that experience in the offense yet.
And I go back to this. It's just one short clip on social media. But in practice the other day, Freiermuth's running, I think it was like a 5 and out, basically. And before he could even break to his out pattern, Rodgers had checked down to the running back. And Freiermuth just throws his hands in the air. And I thought, okay, I was an Aaron Rodgers fan long enough to know if you don't trust him, he doesn't trust you. And if you don't like him, he doesn't like you, which means you're not getting the football. So I don't know if that's the situation there. But I can tell you that if Aaron Rodgers is temperamental enough that if he doesn't like you, there's no reason for you to be on the field. He's not going to throw it to you. So I go back to, I think they need to trade Freiermuth. I think he needs to move on somewhere else if Jonnu Smith is tied in one there. And I agree with you, Brian, with Arthur Smith. He has a long history with Jonnu Smith. He's played for him in Tennessee and Atlanta. So, yeah, let's see what happens here. I think Smith is the safer bet at tight end in Pittsburgh. And I like Freiermuth if he gets moved, if he gets traded somewhere else. Send him to the Chargers. The Chargers still need a tight end. Send him out there. All right, enough of that. All right, let's talk rankings. This is our final segment. We call it the Red Zone. All right, guys, tight end rankings, they can be found on bellyupsports.com. Both Brian Germinaro's and Kevin Wilson's tight end articles are up and live. Kevin's went out on July the 11th. Brian's up July the 20th. First four are exactly the same. Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson. To me, I like the top three. Those are the three that if I'm going to get the tight end, I'm going to get one of those three guys. So I want to know, Brian, how big of a separation is there for you from Bowers, McBride, and Laporta?
I think there's a significant drop off because with the top three, there's not really a question surrounding them. Like you kind of know week in, week out, they're going to be a mainstay in that offense. They're going to be a guy the quarterback relies on. Outside of that, at 4, TJ Hawkinson, he's coming off major knee injury. We don't know what he's going to do. Kittle, I just waxed poetic about him having back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, but this is a guy that plays a very physical style. Is he going to get hurt? After that, it's like Njoku injury problems. What is, Tucker Kraft going to do with that offense? Evan Ingram. So once you get out of those three, it's no longer for me a guarantee starter for a whole season, unlike the top three guys are.
Kevin, specifically between Bowers and McBride, and between McBride and Laporta, how big of a gap do you have between those guys?
I don't have a big gap at all between Bowers and McBride because we all talked about he didn't score a touchdown until week 17. That's not going to be the case this year. And it'll be interesting to see what, because the coach was a coach in Seattle for the longest time. And Seattle's never known what to do with a tight end. And he was the coach there for a while. So is he going to maintain what he did a year ago? I think he would be insane not to.
Right.
But so I don't think there's a big gap between the first two guys. There's a little bit more between him and Laporta. I like that offense, of course, in Detroit. And when it comes between him and Hawkinson, I don't think there's as big a drop off there. Hawkinson has shown us I think he's going to be healthy, and it depends on, because they've got wide receivers who are going to be, on the sideline because of, various issues and whatever. But so this young quarterback is going to need to throw to somebody, and we all know young quarterbacks will throw to their tight end. So I think that's going to be something that is going to happen early and often. So I don't have as big of a gap between him and Hawkinson. I think Hawkinson's going to have a good year this year.
Yeah, I think health is everything for Hawkinson, of course. Coming off the injury, can he stay healthy? I love TJ Hawkinson, too. I could not believe the Lions traded him in the division. That blew my mind when that happened. Now, I love Laporta, too. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The Packers should have drafted Laporta. They didn't. They got good tight ends, but not Laporta. So nonetheless, so I had an episode 2 weeks ago on the Sports Stuff Football Show previewing the AFC South, and my breakout player for the Jaguars this year was Brenton Strange, the tight end. Now, if I look at your guys' rankings, one of you have him at 13, the other one has him at 23, and so when we're looking at this difference, Kevin, you had him higher. You had him at 13. Let's talk about Brenton Strange a little bit, because I think the situation he's in, you look at Tampa's offense last year and what the tight ends did with Liam Cohen there as the offensive coordinator. Now he comes over. I was going to say upgraded quarterback, but I don't know from Baker Mayfield to Trevor Lawrence if that is.
That's not. I'd like to say that it is, but it is not.
Should be, but
it is not.
It's not. But let's talk about Brenton Strange a little bit, because fantasy players probably know who he is, I would assume, in most cases. But he's not your everyday name at tight end either. So, Kevin, let's start with you about Brenton Strange.
Well, obviously he stepped in for Ingram last year, and Ingram's, of course, is not there. We just talked about him. I think Strange is going to step right in and did probably not quite what Ingram did, but I think he's going to be awfully close to that. And they've got wide receivers and all that stuff, but they're still going to need a tight end. I think he's going to step right in. He's going to produce. because as you said, these guys you could pretty much move them around in the rankings. Because I'm looking at this, and I've got Njoku really high in my rankings, and we just talked about him a moment ago.
Yeah.
So these guys are going to move around a lot, but if you have a chance to get Strange later than these other guys that we just talked about a moment ago, he's going to produce for you. So that's why I'll keep him at 13. I think that's a good spot for him, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that tight end too, a guy that comes in and plays, if the guy goes down or bye week, that kind of thing. I think he definitely fits that role. Brian, again, you've got him a little lower, but I don't know. What's your thoughts on Brenton Strange?
So I like Strange. I think if you're a dynasty player, it's definitely someone you should pick up for like the long term. But for me right now, I think there's so much in Jacksonville going on with, there's rumors that Tank Bigsby's going to be the focal point of that offense. The Brian Thomas coming off a 1,000-yard season and should repeat that. They traded up and gave up a lot to go get Travis Hunter. They're going to make him a focal point of that, try to make him a big part of that offense as well. So for me, there's so many other guys higher than Strange that the consistency is not going to be there for me to rank him high yet. Now, could he surprise me and be consistent? Sure, he could break out and have, be finishing top 10. But as of right now, I'm afraid of the consistency from him, and that's why I have him lower.
I'm going to stick with you, Brian, on this one. Both of you guys have at 19 rookie tight end Mason Taylor with the New York Jets. Mm-hmm. I've seen some interviews. I know Up and Adams had talking Jets a lot this week, and so seen clips and stuff like that there. And a lot of high praise early on for Mason Taylor. I love him. I'm going to try to have him on every roster that I draft in fantasy football this year. I think 19, I don't think it's a bad place to have him. I'm probably going to take him higher just because I'm bullish like that. But you're in that closer to that medium market. Talk to us a little bit about Mason Taylor so far in camp.
Yeah, Mason Taylor has been looking great so far in camp. The media seems to love him, which, if that's hard to do in New York. It's hard to get the New York media on your side. But so far, so good. So for that, he does love pressure being, in New York and all that. But from what we've seen from Justin Fields throughout his career, how he loves to throw to tight ends, and with the Jets not really having that big offensive, receiver outside of Garrett Wilson, Taylor could really shoot up draft boards. I'm going to try to get him in like every draft I can because he's kind of going to fly under the radar as this rookie that was behind Loveland and Warren. He could potentially be a league winner, a really deep sleeper for you guys.
I like it. Kevin, thoughts on Mason Taylor?
Well, I know because we talked about Loveland and all that before, because I have him higher than those guys. And so I had them there before we even got into all that. I like him better. I think that once again, as you just mentioned, Brian, where are they going to go on offense there? And so I like the position that he's in, but he's still a rookie. And so I'm going to keep Strange where I have him. And I would rather take a chance on a guy who's shown that he can produce, and Strange can do that. And so I liked his potential better right now but Taylor, I would have no problem having him on my team, and as potentially a number 2 offense option in that. So I like him. Maybe because I got him sitting here, I've got him ranked the highest out of any rookie tight end. So that's not a stretch right there. So I think he can have a great season. So
yeah,
there we go.
I read the room wrong with Jake Ferguson in Dallas. I had him as a make or break player in my preview of the NFC East. I said, boy, if he doesn't have a good season this season, they'll replace him next year. And then they go out and sign him to this extension. And I'm going, okay, I'm wrong. I don't dislike Jake Ferguson, but I feel like Dallas needs a tight end. They need a Jason Witten. They need someone that's going to be a playmaker and a difference maker at tight end. And I don't feel like Jake Ferguson has been that. But his contract says that he's not going anywhere. So we've got him. Kevin's got him at 15 and Brian's got him at 22. I think both of those are fine places to have him. Talk to me a little bit about Jake Ferguson. Does this contract extension give you any more confidence, I guess, in drafting Jake Ferguson? Because it seems like Dallas thinks he's worth it, right, Brian?
Yeah, it gives me a little. It gives me more confidence. If I would rank them today, I probably would move Ferguson into that like low teens number because you don't give a guy that kind of contract if you don't expect him to be a big part of your offense. I know we had a down season last year, but we could chalk that up to Dak being out. If the Cowboys have that much confidence in him and they're seeing him every day in practice, you why bet against the team if what they're seeing is what they're seing.
Yeah, Kevin, I don't know that you'd move him up from 15, but same question. Does it give you more confidence now that he signed the contract?
Well, as you mentioned, I'd leave him right around 15. Maybe move him up just a little bit. But if they think that he's, and we could go back to Jerry Jones and, is he wacky or whatever, but he signs players that he personally believes in. And so I think that says that, yes, they believe in him. I think Dak believes in him. And the wide receivers, we could have talked about George Pickens way back at the beginning. And I think that he's looking really well in camp. And so they're going to open up this offense. The running game, who knows what's going to happen with that. So all of the Dallas pass catchers, I think they need to move them up just a little bit right here. And so I like him. And it would be nice if he would, sit there and say, hey, Kevin believes in me, so I'm going to produce. So,
well, let's wait till after the draft to figure out if you have him or not, right?
That's right. So I like the situation he's in a lot this coming into this year.
The last guy I want to discuss is the Carolina Panthers, Jotavian Sanders. I've got no great stats to back this up. I just believe he's going to have a heck of a season. And we've got Kevin at 25, has him at 25. Brian's got him at 29. To me, we talk about sleepers. I think he's the ultimate sleeper this year at tight end. Bryce Young, year 2 with him, and they added another receiver in Ted McMillan. They've got more options, dynamic options than what they had last year, along with some safe options too. The run game should be fine, all that good stuff. So I wouldn't move him up where you guys have him ranked necessarily. I just think he's the ultimate sleeper right now. If I only have one tight end on my roster and I get towards the end of the draft and I'm going, Jotavian Sanders is still there. Maybe I'll take a shot there. Kevin, talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on Jotavian Sanders.
Well, I liked him, as you mentioned, to rank him at 25. And I think that the offense, at least for, Bryce Young's sake, better be better.
Sure.
And so I like what they can bring. McMillan's going to open things up. I think the running game is got the potential to be good. And so I like that situation. I would probably, Johnson over there in New York, that's a guy that we could have talked about a little bit. I like his situation better than Sanders, but he's certainly capable of delivering a solid season. And as you mentioned, being a guy that you could take later in your draft, maybe as your tight end too, and you feel good about it.
Brian, I know you were a little higher on Bryce Young, even if I remember correctly, for this season, and Ted McMillan, all that's good stuff. So talk to me about Jotavian Sanders.
Oh, yeah, no. We like to think that adding wide receivers and adding other weapons will hurt guys towards volume. But for someone like Sanders, this will help him because that means the Panthers will be throwing the ball more. It gives him more looks, give him more targets, and will give him more opportunities in the red zone where more short passes and more tight end kind of plays are to be expected. So we could see a lot more touchdown numbers that we have from the past. So I'm definitely excited on Sanders this year.
I like it. You guys can read all of the thoughts of the tight ends from Brian and Kevin on bellyupsports.com. Click on the football tab. It'll drop down. You click on fantasy football, and you'll find not only the tight end rankings, you'll find all the rankings there as well. All right, Kevin, tell the fine folks where they can find you this week.
Well, they can find me on Friday. We'll be talking about Elijah Arroyo much more over there on the Seahawks sessions. We'll be doing that on Friday. Saturday, they got a sub guest in on the No Credentials Required, so I will not be there for that. Of course, you and I, Sunday night, fantasy baseball show. And we'll be wrapping up the trade deadline and how that affects fantasy. And just check me out on the Belly Up website. And dropped an article just yesterday on you need to get over there quickly because there are some streaming pictures that you're going to be interested in that it's going to be too late if you don't act on that quickly. So get over there to the Belly Up Fantasy website or Belly Up website, not fantasy.
Yes.
Belly Up. And you can always can find me on Twitter at Kevin62 WILCA and on Reddit. And I have interesting conversations all the time on Reddit. So bring it, and I look forward to it.
Brian, talk to the fine folks about where people can find you at.
You find me at Brian PG1016 on Twitter and the Third and 10 podcast. We were just released a new episode today, breaking down the AFC North. I know I've been pretty hard on the Bengals defense, but if you want to hear some underrated players, go check it out and see who might be a bright spot in that team. Like I've said, trade deadline this week. I will be covering extensively for the Mets for other websites I work for. So you can find all those ratings on my Twitter page.
I love it. I need to listen to that episode. Me and Dad are breaking down the AFC North on Thursday.
Oh, perfect.
And I saw that came out today, and I actually almost watched it live. I was at work, ended up not watching it live, but I'm glad you need to tune into that. Me and Dad will be back Thursday night, 8:00 Eastern time on the Sports Stove Facebook page, and always available on the Belly Up YouTube channel afterwards. We're talking AFC North this week. Last week was the NFC South, and we've got 3 divisions to go. So we got the AFC North, the AFC East, and the NFC West is what we got left to do. So check that out. Then let's see here. Next Sunday, are we doing Sunday or Monday, Kevin? Or is that 2 weeks that we're doing?
Yeah, this Sunday we're doing.
Okay. Yeah, I knew that.
And then,
all right.
Yeah. And the Sunday after that is when I suspect, because you're coming back from Cleveland, aren't you?
That's true. Yes.
And I'm coming back from our anniversary trip. So that
all the same schedule. Sunday night, Belly Up Fantasy Live baseball show is Sunday night. Tuesday night, Kevin will not be here next Tuesday. And so we have a big time guest. I mean, we're talking super celeb coming in. Nathan Nguyen, Brian's co-host on the Third and 10 podcast, is coming in next Tuesday to join us to fill in for Kevin next week. So make sure you tune in for that right here, the Belly Up Fantasy Live football show. And a week from Saturday and Sunday, the Belly Up Sports crew are going to be live from the Fantasy Football Expo. And myself, DJ, who filled in for me a couple weeks ago, Kelsey, Jared, Matt, Blaine, Mike, we're all going to be there at the Expo, live from the Expo. If you go to the Fantasy Football Expo, come by the booth. Come say hi to us over there at the Belly Up Sports booth, and we'll have lots of content coming your way next weekend as well. So lots of stuff going on. You can always check out bellyupsports.com for the latest and greatest things there as well. Follow me on Twitter at Sports Stove. Follow Belly Up Fantasy on Twitter and Instagram as well, and Belly Up Sports on Twitter and Instagram also. We sure appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live football show. And keep prepping, keep paying attention, because a lot's going to happen over these next couple of weeks. We'll see you next week. Hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week.